So how's everyone doing? Can everyone hear me okay? What the hell, the market? Yeah, exactly. I hear you. Right then, let's kick off with these yields then. So we were in anticipation of the market sliding, the yield coming down, and we did not really get that, did we? We had some initial uh, bearishness coming through, but no cigar, right? So unfortunately, that did not give us what we wanted on the US dollar, and we were trading against that strength all day long, and it made life very difficult when we were mostly geared towards dollar weakness for today. So a recap: someone asked me why were we bearish on the dollar today? Purely on the basis that the dollar has been bid for so long, we're in anticipation of it falling away. So we were up against daily resistance. We've been long for all of this, right? And we were starting to decelerate, showing signs of topping, and we were positioning in our thesis for the sell off. And if we look at this on a day count, and I'll just make that chart a bit cleaner for us. So since last Friday, let's go all the way back to Monday, in fact. So we got a failed break of the highs on Thursday, last week's highs. We closed down low. So we call that day one of shorts, day two of shorts, and then day three moved into those shorts. So that restarted the down count, day count with day one, two, three. So we've got 3 days of longs in this market. So we're in anticipation of the sell-off. Now we got that. We were discussing this yesterday, and we got that. We got that early on in Asia. We came up into those shorts, but this support remained firm. Yields didn't activate a sell-off. So unfortunately, that is where we were left treading water for all of the day, really. There was a bit of a silver lining in oil prices supporting the Canadian dollar. So when there were signs of, when there were episodes of dollar weakness and the yields were starting to come off, we got a very nice run in the Canadian dollar. But again, even that was testing and wasn't an easy trade. I had to get in a number of times. It was a lot of work with the Canadian dollar. We'll come to that in a moment. But uh, went to target, so not a bad trade, even though it's done in parts. Um, the stocks, we were testing this silver bullet strategy that I put out yesterday. It's in the education section. I'm going to do more on that probably this weekend. I'll do a big back test. I've purchased this FX Replay, which is a nice tool. It basically uses TradingView technology and interface, so very familiar. And you can go back really many years back on a 1 minute, 5 minute chart, and it's not too expensive. So I think it's pretty valuable, and I'll be doing some stuff there for you guys and on that strategy. But it didn't pay off today. It worked out yesterday, but not it didn't work out today. It stopped out, went to target, but unfortunately it ran through our stop before plummeting. Um, Anyhow, so the stocks overall, um, I'm just looking over here. Stocks overall were underwater. There seems to be some degree of risk off in the markets. China is weighing on sentiment. Uh, the, the 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 thing there is that it, like other nations, is actually facing deflation. So that's weighing on risk appetite. And then you've got the Moody's downgrade of some of these medium-sized banks, and then they're looking at the larger sized banks as well. So the market's sort of on edge in anticipation of some bad news there. So stocks are a fade on rallies. They have been for, well, gosh, all the way back to the end of last month. So all of this month is just fading. Any positiveness is just being sold back into. And that's been supporting the dollar and giving it a lifeline um, as we head into this US CPI number. And the expectation there for tomorrow is a Goldilocks economy, not too hot, not too cold in terms of inflation. Um, as I've said before, I don't like to be in before such numbers. I would let the market settle, let it do its thing. Um, if it takes off without us, fair be it. You might get a first bounce opportunity whereby the market will be volatile over the number, one way or the other, or both ways. So the number comes out, we shoot up, we shoot down, we shoot back up, we shoot down, and then it really starts to settle after so long, within sort of 10, 15 minutes. And it gives you that opportunity, depending on the candlestick formation, to finally take part in the real move, right? So rather than being involved in all of this mayhem, bedlam, really, you want to be, catching something when all of that's occurred, and you can get in on the real move. And we can do something on that down the line in an education video at some point, how to trade the news, or any variation of how to do it. Okay, so I'm just looking at the chat, and no, we haven't. We've only gone through yields, the dollar. Yeah, I don't know what that TGIF is. Thank God it's Friday. Is it a trade that's taken on a Friday? Setups that are done on a Friday? Yeah, sure. Why not? I'll look at it. It's no problem. I'll put it on the list of things to do. Um, Moving to gold. So some of you get caught out on that. I did explain, maybe not clearly enough, we are still on the front side of that trend. So even though that I talked about, and yesterday we spoke of the so that occurred. The Yesterday I was talking about the prospects of a move up, was I not, into test the trend line, and we got that, but that happened in Asia. That's already happened. Then we got the pullback, and what I was talking about, perhaps this will stabilize. Perhaps I didn't say it would, and I didn't say it was going to go up. I said with dollar bearish, positive for gold, and I pointed out the structure that it needed to break if this was going to head higher. And we were talking around about what, 7 a.m. New York. I think the market was, where was it at that time? I don't recall. So 7 o'clock New York. But anyway, we had this higher, this lower high that the market needed to break, and we didn't get that. It just fell away. Yeah, sure, we've got the spike up there, but that's not a close above. And all of this was, this is just rejection after rejection after rejection. So you should not be buying in all of this. There's no setup in here whatsoever, and subsequently, that was the trade. A quick run to the downside, in and out, done and dusted. Where does that leave us for the day ahead in gold? Well, someone asked, has this got room to run? I would say yes, it has. It's still front side of the bearish trend, and we don't want to be trying to pick a bottom here. We just let this play out, let it do its thing, and we'll see if we don't get a deceleration of this. So we're looking on the lower time frames for a deceleration. This can still plummet. We've got last month's lows over here. Right, you can pick up this template. I've done a video on it in the Discord if you want these lines in your chart, which very nice to have those there to know where you're at. So we've broken yesterday's lows, that green line, yesterday's lows, and there's nothing in the way until last month's lows. Okay, quite easily continue to slide, but that's neither here nor there because there's no setup. So what we need to see is a setup. We could ride that if we get the setup. And the continuation setup might be a pullback, signs of exhaustion, break of structure, and continuation. Moving to yen. Now the yen is something that we've been in, if you recall, we're swing trading this to 144.50. That's the target up here. Okay, but be warned that as I was looking for a short, a scalp. We didn't get it. I was battling against dollar strength. I did short it a few times, and I gave up in the end and took a loss. But we're now headed over to US CPI, and it really does depend on how that comes out. We're nicely stacked. Okay, see you later. Thank you for being here. Nicely stacked on the front side of this bullish trend, but we're coming up into last week's highs, so we could get some fierce opposition here. Right, there's a number out there. There's a large majority of the market in anticipation of a sell-off. That's bound to make nervous hands holding on to this trade, especially into the data. Right, if you're long and you've just got long and there's new money that's come in on lower time frames, day trading, swing trading over a couple of days, then you'd be pretty nervous coming into this US CPI. What that gives us is the potential for a setup in Asia and London. We'll see how things set up. But as we come into a new day, just keep in mind that we've got we had a first bullish close on Monday to set us up long for the week. So we've got new money coming in. We've got 1, 2. This was the third day of longs getting into this market. Long. So at some point, you'd be in anticipation of this pullback. When is it going to happen? We don't know. We're going to come up potentially and test last week's highs. Now, we're going to get breakout traders in anticipation of a continuation at that point, and that could be the trap, and that could be our setup for Asia, London, a pullback ahead of the US data, 20 pips or so. We could get out the market. You can go in on size on such a setup. It'd be a very nice trade, but we'll have to see how that pans out. So we've got dollar yen on the watch list. Let's see if that one plays out. Dollar Swiss was a if you recall, we were talking about to buy low. Bear with me a sec. Who is it, Ken? Hello? I don't know. Can you get the door? Because I'm in a meeting, darling. Do apologise. Someone's at the door. Okay, so we were um, looking at buying low. Okay, as we were. I didn't actually trade this today, so I'm just trying to remind myself what we talked about. So Friday, last Friday. Bear with me, guys. Sorry, Monday, Tuesday, Friday. So we're over here. Monday was the low, so there's nothing there. Okay, so that was the failed breakout up here. One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. Third day, day 3. Day 1, day 2. Yes, this is day 2, day 1. So we've got longs in the market, more longs in the market. So we're looking to buy low. That was simply the setup, and this was not in our session, so there was nothing to do, and that's why I left it. So we stayed front side, essentially, of that bullish trend. It's a trend continuation. So this has prospects now coming into the following day, being Thursday, for a short. We want to be looking to short up high to come into these longs, right? So these longs have been built up for a number of days. Similar scenario with dollar yen, and we're looking to short 87.80 thereabouts. Anything above there, look for it to decelerate in terms of its trajectory and come down lower and get involved once you've got the setup to short. Okay, so we'll have that along with dollar Swiss as day 3. Sterling yen. Do any of you guys trade sterling yen? Are you interested in sterling yen? Well, you tell me which pairs you want me to look at, because I could be waffling on about stuff that you're not interested in. Yeah, okay. We've got some interest in this one. So, the question is this a strong high? Okay, so we've come up into prior resistance. We've broken that. We failed to stay up there, right? So this was happening this week. So on Monday, the initial balance, Tuesday, gave us a very large range, didn't it? And we moved back into those longs. All right. So this was this was potentially a strong high. If this holds up here, then this is a strong high, and the thesis that we're coming down lower. And just like with dollar yen, if the yen takes off, it can run. It can move very fast as well. I mean, look at that there. What was that in one day? All right, so you've got 160 points there. The tricky thing with sterling yen and so on, the spreads are pretty large. So trying to get in with aggressive positions is difficult. So just bear that in mind if you're intending to trade in the style that I'm talking about. And scalping on the day, you might be better off trading these on a longer time frame chart. Okay, so what we're looking at here is a scenario where we're potentially flaking out on this bullish run. Okay, so today was how many days of longs we've got in the market here? So this sold off and closed high. So that was an interesting day. That was good two-way business. We closed over here on Monday. That would be day 1, day 2, day 3. So this was day 3, and we just didn't get what we wanted, and so be it. But what we were looking for was a sell-off today. as part of the 3-day cycle thesis that 3 days usually leads to a correction of in the opposing direction of the trend cycle. So we've got this volume here. It's either going to break up or it's going to come down. So we are looking at a scenario whereby we need to see structure broken, which led to that high. Which is the high? So this level here. Now bear with me, that's fine. So 182.27.9 remains the structure that we need to get below. So we want to see a break of that and move back inside, and then whatever setup criteria it is that you want for the sell-off. All right. On the upside, if the yen remains on the back foot, then obviously these highs, breakout, pullback, continuation could be on the cards, and that could well be the initial move, maybe in London, as dollar yen perhaps heads towards the 144.50s. It could be, we don't know, but just be aware of the possibilities. That's what we're doing here. Okay, all clear on sterling yen? Any other pairs, guys? There's a few of you in here, all very quiet. Cable. Okay. Give me a second to digest all of what is on this chart. I haven't done anything with cable today. Well, we've still got stops above the inside day. They're still in, I said here mixed signals. So we've got stops above inside day. We've got another inside day probably happening here. We're about to close, so inside day. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 3, day 1, day 2. So this was day 2 today. A 3-day cycle. No fireworks, nothing really to report. What we have had is a breakout. So if we were to look at this as one box, right? We've had that breakout and move back in. Perhaps we're going to get a breakout the other side. So we've got this sort of scenario, and then back in the original direction of the original breakout. That can sometimes occur. That would require initial dollar weakness and then opposing strength. So that's one scenario, or the other scenario is we just stay inside, or we break out to the upside, and we'll be looking for bullish structure to continue the move up. Yeah, we're all waiting for CPI. Well, in some regards, I mean, it should be. I mean, it's priced into the market. I mean, you've got very clever people there in the banks and institutions and so forth that have already taken their position, and they'll use the data, to get out of their trade probably, rather than, depending on the outcome. But yes, we should get volatility around it. There may be a setup after the data that we can take early on in the US session. When does it actually come out? 6 o'clock, 6:30. That's my time, so that's 8:30 New York time. So just ahead of the Wall Street Open, there might be some volatility into the data. Very early doors, New York. I mean, we just don't know. But, this is coiled market conditions, and the more that we coil, the closer we're getting to a breakout. And those breakouts can be measured moves of that coil. They could be parabolic moves. So very worth taking note of how we set up into the data. Perhaps the data will be used as a catalyst for the parabolic breakout, and we want to be on the right side of that. Okay. Any others, guys, that you want me to look at? We go to dollar CAD. So dollar CAD has served us well this week. We got some juice out of it on Tuesday, and again, this is the one I was trading. Pretty sure I was doing on 8 cap. It's 8 cap. Bizarre. Anyhow, so that was, we talked about this earlier on the day, at the start of the day. I'm pretty sure someone said it wasn't worth trading, and I beg to differ, and I explained the rationale behind it, and this was our savior. I can go over the trade for you in detail if it helps. Yeah, this was where I traded it on this demo. Right, so come out of this inside bar stuff. So the initial breakout occurred, and I took it very high up, and unfortunately it just moved. It moved back to. It was unbelievable. It really was today. Unbelievable. I was running in huge game, and then I was taking some off along the way. I let some run in anticipation that would move down into these longs. Left my stop at break even. It came right up. Unbelievable. So I had to go in again, and then again over here eventually. And I actually got out over here. I was out on lunch. I thought, well, it's teetering down at these lows again. Could be a third push, but I was out at lunch. I was on my phone and just took the position off, and lo and behold, ran straight to target. But the oil price, US oil, it's bizarre really. Besides the concerns on consumer demand in China, oil has managed to, do really well. Went to the highest price in nearly 9 months, I think it is. So there are obviously more concerns about supply shortages due to potential for an intensifying conflict with Russia, Ukraine, and all that noise. But anyway, so we can look at Euro Aussie as well. Right, so I'm going to have to back right up because I do not trade this yet. Let's go to a hourly chart and have a look what it looks like from a couple of week perspective. So this was day 2 and 3 day cycle, and what are we doing here? So we're essentially teeing up maybe for a sell-off. We might get a test through the highs. If we get that test through those highs, then the key level is going to be down here, or downside. We need that to indicate that we're going to start coming into these longs. So we could get that. We're starting to show signs of that already. We've got a lower a lower, higher low over here. So we broke this structure here, come back up, and what we'll be looking for is a strong high. This might be the strong high here. We might fail, and if we come down from this point here on and break that, then that will be a ticket to be looking for your short into these longs. On the other hand, while we're on the front side of this trend, this bullish trend, there are prospects of a continuation up. But given how many days we've been long, the market's been long, it's poised potentially for a sell-off. Now, if we look at the Aussie in that regard, do we see prospects of Aussie strength coming in? Potentially. I mean, we closed down low yesterday. We failed to continue lower. Maybe we've got demand in here for the Aussie coming in. And on a weaker dollar, that can really take off. And that could be where you find your short in Euro Aussie. Following me there, guys? All good? So, should we call it a wrap? Make it a wrap here, and I'll be back again in the morning. If there's anything else, let me know. More than happy. We've got plenty of time to look through things. All good? Okay, thank you indeed as well. Thank you all for being here. Enjoy the interaction. And we'll do the same again tomorrow. So do let me know if there's anything that you want me to look at in these meetings. That's what they're for. I'm here to help, give you my insight to what we might see for the day ahead, for the session ahead, what opportunities are, playing to see. Those are the ones that we want. We want to see everything stack up, aligning with our methodology, and it should really just jump out at you. Yeah. Okay, guys, have a great evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.